Hey there, I'm Anthony Romano, and this video is going to be super valuable for you because it is on why you should fast while you bulk. So when I say fast, I mean intermittent fast, because this will provide a load of muscle building and fat burning benefits to you, in addition to, better overall health and preventing you from doing stupid, dirty bulk tactics. But this is my absolute preferred method of bulking. I also use keto bulking. I use carb backloading bulking. I do plenty of things, but intermittent fasting is a mainstay, and it's something I use and recommend for my clients all the time. So intermittent fasting and bulking, this is the video you're going to want to watch. Also like this video, because if you do, that's going to allow other people to see my videos more often. The YouTube algorithm really likes that, and that's how you can help me out, is if you simply click a like button. And so what if you see more of my videos on your feed? If you like them, watch them. If you don't. That would help me out a load. Also subscribe and follow my Instagram. And wait, there's more. If you want to win some free ketone supplements, I have a giveaway. All the rules are in the description. It's very easy. I'm giving out 4 of the best quality ketone supplements out there. All right, let's get into the video. So, why should you still intermittent fast while you bulk? This is something that seems counterintuitive, but there's actually a lot of great logic and evidence behind it. However, this video is going to explain mostly the, takeaways from all the research that you can either learn about from my other videos or do on your own. But I have other videos explaining the research and evidence behind this. So, the first point I want to hammer home here is that you increase your insulin sensitivity by doing intermittent fasting and also by doing keto dieting and all the other tactics I talk about. But insulin sensitivity is key for muscle building and for fat burning. And the reason why it's key is because insulin is the primary anabolic hormone in your body. It builds muscle tissue, fat tissue. It's anything building, insulin's going to play a role. And when we're looking at fasting, increasing your insulin sensitivity, what that's going to do is it's going to enhance the ability for your body to uptake amino acids into the actual muscle. If you're somebody who's overweight, you do not have good insulin sensitivity. That's actually what it means to be overweight. Your insulin sensitivity is diminished, and if you simply got leaner somehow, you would increase that insulin sensitivity. So when you're not insulin sensitive, that means that your body's not going to be good at taking up insulin into tissues. So when we're talking glucose and amino acids going into your muscles, your body's not as good at that. And if you simply got leaner, what would happen is your body would have a better ability to actually build muscle. Now, that calls into question a big principle that's going to play a large role in this video, which is the principle, well, it's the Matthew principle, but it's basically the rich get richer principle, okay? So write that down, Matthew principle. What that means is the rich get richer, and this is something that governs a lot of functions of the body. It's a universal law. So what does this mean? If somebody's already in good shape, it's going to be easier for them to get in better shape. If somebody's already in bad shape, it's going to be harder for them to get in good shape. It's going to be easier for them to get in worse shape. So that's why you see people who are great athletes, and example, Cristiano Ronaldo. The guy's always shredded, and the very fact that he's so shredded means that his insulin sensitivity is high, his responsiveness to glucose and high sugar meals, his responsiveness to junk food would be better, and he could maintain his lean physique easier. That's just an example. Another example that most people know is, did you ever know a kid growing up, like when you're in elementary school, who was just naturally lean and in good shape, or they were an athlete, or maybe it's in high school or something? There's just always one kid growing up who's just in good shape. And it's like no matter what they do, they're just always ripped or whatever. They were always just naturally, it seemed like they were gifted. The thing is, the better shape you are already in, the easier it's going to be to maintain that and to improve upon it, because your body's mechanisms that actually govern how you look are in better condition, okay? And I know there's diminishing returns as far as muscle building and stuff, and it doesn't mean that, just because you're already ripped, you're just going to put on muscle easier, but it means that you're going to put on muscle easier than people who aren't in as good shape as you. So when we're also talking about how to assess yourself and your own insulin sensitivity, one key that I'm going to give you that nobody else will give you is that there is literally a direct correlation between your insulin sensitivity and your waist size. So of course you can get blood tests and whatnot to actually figure out what your fasting glucose is, what your hemoglobin A1C is, that's glycated protein in your blood. But the easiest way for you to take this home is if you're a man and your waist is over 36 inches, you have insulin resistance in some sort of way, okay? Insulin resistance is basically the opposite of insulin sensitivity. It means you're not good at taking up insulin for its various purposes. If you're a woman, then the cutoff point for waist measurement is typically around 40 inches. There is a little bit more variance with women because the waist and hip ratio is different than men. It's a much more predictable with men, and women have hip-waist ratios of differing amounts. But the main point is, if you're over 36 inches and you're a man, and if you're over 40 inches in your waist as a woman, then generally that means that you probably have insulin resistance. And again, insulin resistance is also your ability to lose fat. Okay, again, the more overweight somebody is, the harder it's going to be to lose the weight, because your body is not as good at using insulin. And that ties into, of course, the muscle building side, but it also ties into the fat burning side. So when we're talking about if your own assessment of yourself here, if you know your waist is over those respective measurements, then you should know that cutting should be your first order priority as far as body composition goals go. So this is also why I have a video on basically 90% of people need to cut before they bulk, because most of the time you will get better results out of your bulk if you simply optimize your insulin sensitivity first. So this is why you should cut down first. That will enhance your ability to burn fat and then enhance your ability to build muscle. Now, granted, insulin sensitivity is not just a blanket term that only talks about the pancreatic secretion of insulin. It also deals with your muscles, certain muscles' ability to uptake insulin. But the main point is here, if somebody loses 45 pounds and shrinks their waist from 45 inches to 30, they're going to be far better at building muscle and burning fat than they were before. So now let's get into the insulin sensitivity and demand and snacking, and why it would be a problem to be continuously eating on a bulk, or at least why it can be a problem, because it's not always a problem if you're eating clean, etc., when you're bulking. One thing that actually does play in your favor when we're talking about fasting and bulking is that the fasting window, right, in a very minor sense, will increase that insulin sensitivity in a daily context, especially if you're doing it regularly, and that will enhance the meals you eat and the uptake of amino acids, which are proteins. So if somebody's eating constantly all the time, you're diminishing your insulin sensitivity, because the reason you're sensitive to insulin is because you go through states where it's low. If you're constantly cranking insulin every time you eat, which is when it occurs, then you are going to diminish that sensitivity, and you're not going to get as profound of a muscle building effect. So think about the evolutionary history of human beings. We are hunters, we're scavengers, but there would be large periods of time where we would not be eating for hours, days, weeks. We are built too fast, and if we didn't have that ability, we wouldn't have made it to this point in history. We would have died. It's simply, that's one of the big takeaways that even logic will tell us about our evolutionary history. So if we didn't have the ability to super compensate for, not eating for a while and to really replenish muscle, really build on, our previous body from before, we would not be here. This is an essential survival technique that would have been inherent in the human body. It's a mechanism that we all have. So by increasing the fasting window and then eating, you're creating more of an anabolic response because you're building that sensitivity to it, which is again playing into the insulin sensitivity dynamic I explained earlier. So when somebody's eating all the time and your body's used to that, it's going to be easier to store fat, not simply build the muscle, because you're not as adept at burning fat because of the low insulin states, and you're not as adept at actually rebuilding tissue because your sensitivity to insulin is not as high as it could be. I know I'm throwing a lot at you here, but I'm telling you, stay with me. There's going to be even better pieces of advice coming at you. So that is the evolutionary context, and you might be thinking, okay, won't I lose muscle? Won't I, not make as many gains if I'm fasting while I'm bulking? The answer to that, again, is no. Because of that dynamic, the easiest way for me to explain it to you is that dynamic of the human body over time gaining sensitivity and really compensating for the period of time where you were not eating. This is, again, something that if we did not have, we would not be here. So let's get on to the other benefits of fasting while we're building muscle. Intermittent fasting increases your growth hormone. Now, granted, growth hormone is not really the primary hormone that actually makes you gain super crazy amounts of muscle. It's almost like a longevity and, beauty hormone. But intermittent fasting daily will increase your growth hormone, and what that will do is it will liberate more fuel sources into your bloodstream, which again will enhance the absorption of certain nutrients, amino acids, and basically also make you live longer. But a lot of people will, even like athletes, they will take, like even if you watch any TV show, people will take growth hormone to speed up recovery. They will take it to basically get over injuries, okay? Things of that nature. There's a great show called Kingdom where they do that. It's about UFC fighters. My friend showed it to me. But this is something that athletes in the real world do. People who are high performance competitors do. And as far as, am I going to lose muscle? Well, no, not if growth hormone is jacking to the roof when you have fasting going on. You're not going to lose muscle. You're going to repair tissue better if you have more growth hormone. This is the easiest way for people to understand these things. So again, that's more evidence behind playing out that sort of adaptive mechanism that I'm talking about. Now, you might be thinking, oh, how could I train though while I'm fasted? If you're worried about training fasted while you're bulking, the thing is, what this comes down to is your ability to stabilize blood sugar before a workout. The only reason you ever get tired in a sporting event, and this is going to change your life too, is because of your inability to maintain stable glucose. All the best athletes in the world have amazing abilities to maintain stable blood glucose, so blood sugar. And I have videos on this. I encourage you to watch them. This is something that I believe is going to revolutionize sports performance over the next 50 years. Well, it already is, but it's not as mainstream as it should be. So the thing is, when we're talking about somebody not being able to perform intermittent fasting and working out at the same time, that's another indication that you should fast more. That's another indication that perhaps what you should do is a keto or carb backloading oriented approach to get better insulin sensitivity without necessarily having your blood sugar tank. Because for some people, not eating anything is going to make their blood sugar, if it's not already regulated well, because they're not insulin sensitive, because they are insulin resistant, that means they don't have a very good ability to maintain stable blood sugar. This is why, again, the best athletes are in the best shape. So that's another reason why training fasted, if you can't do it, it's something you should be aware of. And again, use to further reinforce how much you should know you should be cutting. So the last thing I'm going to say here is that it's going to minimize fat gain while you're bulking. Again, this ties back to the insulin sensitivity dynamic I was explaining earlier, because basically if you're not good at using insulin, not all your insulin is going to go where it needs to go, and it's going to basically be left over and used for fat storage. So again, this is going to make lean bulking easier and more effective. This is why plenty of people do the warrior diet or things of that nature. And it will also prevent you from dirty bulking, because not only are the consequences of fasting going to play in well for you for not gaining fat, it will make you less likely to want to eat all the time. It will make you less likely to be, again, ruining your insulin sensitivity because you're eating all the time. So in terms of both the consequences and the input, you're not going to be as hungry because your insulin's not sky high, and you're not going to gain as much fat because your insulin's not as sky high. So it's a double whammy effect, and ultimately this is why it's something that you should get used to. The ultimate recommendation for you is get used to intermittent fasting. Get used to low carb states, because when you're not eating anything, you're not eating carbs, by the way. So that technically is considered a low carb state. Keto and fasting are the same state, just deeper ends of the pool. And basically, this is why you should just get used to these tactics. Get used to skipping breakfast and then, gradually getting better at fasting. It's like a muscle, but it's really just your blood sugar control and your insulin sensitivity. And get used to those tactics, have them be a backdrop for your life, and anytime you want to try to bulk a little bit more, of course, increase the amount of food you're eating, the proteins, training stimulus, increase those things, but have the backdrop be, hey, I can fast today. Or if you wake up one day and you're hungry, then eat that day and then still proceed with your regular bulking routine. But the point is, you have to have the ability to fast while you bulk that will maintain insulin sensitivity. That's the last thing you write down here, is have the ability to fast while you bulk. Write that down, because if you don't have that ability, your bulking is not optimized. And that is it for this video on muscle building while you're fasting. It is key. Doesn't mean you have to do it all the time, but it simply means you want that ability in place so that whenever it's at your leisure, you can do it. Also, go to my website, romanoketo.com, if you want to work with me one-on-one. I do coaching with people. I'm also releasing some programs very soon, and I plan to release a lot of books next year. So I encourage you to keep up to date on that website and also join my ketone giveaway. And also follow me on Instagram and subscribe here and like the video. That is it. Anthony Romano, peace.